Alright, here we're going to learn a little bit about ghost flames. Ghost flames have been around forever, and basically they're transparent flames. So you can make transparent flames either with thinning down your metallic color or taking the color that you have on there, adding a little silver, adding a little black to make it a lighter or darker tone. Most popular way on like really dark colors like blacks and reds is just take some intercoat clear like SG100 and add a little bit of pearl, purple pearl, blue pearl, whatever color pearl you want. In this case, I've got a dark candy wineberry red Harley Davidson tank, and I'm going to use a red pearl ghost flame on top of it. So they'll be really subtle, but when the sun hits it, it's going to really pop. So the key to a good ghost flame is transparency, but you want it to be visible too. Everyone's idea of ghost flame is totally different. Before my ghost flames were as is, you get it the way I do it, and that's the way it is. Before that, I used to try and make customers happy by giving them their interpretation of ghost flames. You can't do that. If they don't like the way you do ghost flames, tell them to go somewhere else. Because there are so many different variations of ghost flames, everyone's idea of a ghost flame is different. I've done thousands of them, and I change them a little bit here and there, and I used to try to make customers happy. I'll tell you a little story first. I had a customer. First I'm going to start laying out the tape. So first you take the tape, you lay out the flames. So typically you start, if you're doing a tank, you can start in the middle of the tank or wherever you want. Depends how much of a perfectionist you are. I like my flames a little bit symmetrical. So we're just laying them out, pulling the tape with one hand, the roll of tape with one hand, finger on top of the other, and you guide it with the tape roll and just lay your finger on and follow. This is what I'm guiding it with, so you can predict where you want it before you go there. So a lot of people will get this section mixed up. So I'm guiding it with this tape. I want to go that way, and I'm just following it with my finger. And then you lift up and change it to where you want it. And then bam. There I have laid down a line. And then you want to follow it. You can go thin flames, fat flames, any shaped flames you want. And I am choosing a standard size flame. And you don't have to start in the middle of the tank because not everyone is anal about being somewhat symmetrical. And then you just kind of wave your next flame in there. See how I'm just guiding it, cutting the corner nice and tight here. Depends on if you like tight or long flames. Now, everyone's kind of got their own style. This is the most common style. I'll do the pincher kind, the long ones, the short fat ones, overlapping ones, whatever. But this is probably the most common. Kind of a long, medium fat, and you just keep on going. Let's see here. This will give you an idea of how this flame goes. And then, of course, there are vinyl stencil kits you can buy. They have kits you can wrap on there. Let's say you want flame number 555 on the catalog. They'll send you a stencil kit. You lay that on here, spray in there, and you're done. The only problem with that is there's not a problem with, but the problem that some people may have is that not everyone wants the same exact flames as someone else. Doing them freehand like this means there will be no other flame set exactly like this. It makes it a little more personal. You autograph it, give the customer a letter of authenticity. So if you should happen to get in an accident or get famous, that bike might be worth something someday. But back to my ghost flame story. years ago, had a customer that had this vision of ghost flames that wasn't like my vision. Totally different. What he wanted was super duper ghost flames. So I put these really faint ghost flames on there. I could barely see them. But they showed up in the shade. They showed up a little bit in the sun. They showed up quite a bit more. But this customer wanted it redone. He said, redo it. That's not ghost flames. That's not my idea of ghost flames. I want you to redo those ghost flames. So I'm like, okay, fine. I need this money. Let me redo it. Come back in a week. So I wiped them. I took them all off. I actually had to put another coat of paint on to cover them, and then put another set of ghost flames on there, really faint this time. Not even you could barely see them. Barely see these ghost flames. Well, the guy came, still wasn't happy. Nope, that's not ghost flames. I don't know what you're talking about. Those aren't ghost flames. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll get rid of them. I did them again, and this time I was already getting pissed off, and so I made them really super faint, so only if the sun was shining right on them you could see these flames. The guy's looking at his bike, and he's like, dude, you don't even know what a ghost flame looks like. I can see these. I can see them right there in the sun. Those aren't very ghosty. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, dude, this has been 3 times. I'm fed up. I'm done. Give me your bike. Come back and get it next week. So I already had like 10 coats of paint on there, so I decided to strip the bike back down to metal, primer it, paint it the factory color, and just give him his money back, get rid of this guy. He was never going to be happy. So I painted the factory color, painted it all back to I think it was a dark blue or whatever it was, and gave him his bike back. He came, picked up his bike, and he's looking at it, and just before I could give him his money back, he says, that's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Those are ghost flames. Now that's what I'm talking about. Those are ghost flames. And I'm thinking to myself, how could that be? There's nothing there. And he's like, no, that's exactly what it is. He was so happy he gave me a $600 tip. But there were no ghost flames there. But, you know, like a real ghost, only certain people can see them. And he even took the bike to bike shows, and somehow, I've seen him there, he's convinced other people there were some flames there. Or maybe they were just going along with him because they thought he was crazy. I don't know, but I thought he was crazy. But anyways, that was my ghost flame. Okay, here's another little tip or lesson or whatever you want to call it. Typically, when I have people help me mask off in between the flames with masking tape for your ghost flames, a lot of people will make mistakes. And the most common mistake, even with us professionals when we get in a hurry, is using a dull razor blade. The sharper the razor blade, the better. And why is that? Because you do not want to scratch the clear that is on the bike. The clear that's on there, if you cut through it and then you clear over it or paint over it, do your ghost flames, the solvent will go into that crack, into that little cut, and it could blow up, it could wrinkle, it could cause all kinds of problems later down the road, and it would never go away. So a lot of people end up with all these little cuts here and there using a razor blade to cut out their tape. A lot of people, when I have people help me, I will just have them do the basics and then I will go over it. Or another simple way is just to use a bunch of little pieces of tape and work your way around. That takes forever and you'll get impatient, especially if you're doing this all the time and you've done thousands like me. What you want to do is run your fine line tape. Your tape. So I'm going to run this over and just overlap it. And then take your fingernail, go over the crease of the fine line tape, and it will show through. Take your sharp razor blade, because the dull razor blade you tend to push harder because you can't cut into it, so you go too deep and you cut into this fine line tape. You don't want to even touch the fine line tape. So what you're doing with a really sharp razor blade is just scratching the top surface. So you just want to scratch the tape on the top, right in the middle. And a lot of times, if you're just scratching it, you'll end up with little fuzzy sometimes you can rub off. See, I got a little bit because I didn't go all the way through the tape. There's a little bit of a fuzzy, and I can pick it off like a booger, just like that. And that's basically it. Of course, you want, you know, the bigger tape you use, the faster you can go. 2-inch tape, same thing. And of course, the same concept goes with any kind of frisket or mask or anything like that. But this is the old school way to do it, and this is I don't know. It's personal preference, because I know I've tried some of the other things, and I end up going back to doing this. Had my own set of problems with all the other things. And of course, you can buy a kit with the flames already cut out, which is kind of cool. But then you're getting flame number 55 or flame number 56, and someone else in the world has that same exact flame as you do. This is kind of the way to do it if somebody wants something completely their own. There is no other set of flames in the world exactly like this. They're different every time. You're freehanding it. Freehand is considered a little more artistic than stenciling, even though I'm basically making my own stencil. There I'm starting to fill in the mask. And pretty soon here, when I'm done, we're going to go to the next step, unless I think of another tip. The tip with the razor blade is really important, because everyone seems to make that mistake one time or another. And it's usually due to a dull razor blade, not a sharp one. And we think a sharp razor blade is going to cut through much faster. No, because the dull ones we tend to press a little harder. A really sharp razor blade, you know when you got a good quality razor blade, you just have to scratch that tape and it'll tear off like a perforated dotted edged letter or something like that. It comes off, and you should get little fuzzies once in a while. Be sure to pick them off. That also shows that you didn't cut through the second layer of tape, which means you didn't cut into the paint. General rule of thumb: scratch, peel, scratch it and peel. If you're having a little problem, you can go a little deeper, but do not go through that fine line tape. You don't even really want to scratch the fine line tape too much. You just want to go through that top layer, and that is it. I do have one more tip for you, even though this is 10 minutes later and I've already ate dinner. Okay, this bike is Candy Wineberry House of Color. Probably one of the most popular colors you see at a car show. Of course, the candy dyes and painting over an entire car has always been a problem with fogging, and you really have to be a really good painter to do a really nice candy paint job, especially over a silver base. There are tricks and cheats around that. If you want to know, I'd be happy to answer those kind of questions too. I mean, there's tricks and secrets to everything. But the latest, newest secret that a lot of you may not know of, House of Color now makes candy base coats. Here it is. Brandy wine, candy base coat. Look at this color. Looks just like the candy base coat, but there's pearls and metallics already in there. You know what that means for us? It means it looks almost identical to it is a real solid candy paint job, but without all the hassles of a candy paint job. Let's say you paint a complete car, you get a big scratch on a fender. Can you match that fender and fix it? No, you have to paint the whole car. Ends up costing you thousands more for a candy paint job because of all the hassles. Not everyone can paint a candy paint job, because you have to paint it exactly right. Because if you cross over a spot that you've already crossed over, you're going to have a fog line, you're going to have stripes, and it's a pain in the butt for a lot of people trying to do their own candy paint job. Now it sprays just like a base coat right from the factory. You don't have to be an expert to do a candy paint job, and you can repair panels. All the benefits of a base coat with the look of a candy. You really have to have the two colors right next to each other to really tell the difference that the candy is on top of the silver metallic versus the metallics and pearls mixed in with the candy. It has a really awesome effect, and it really looks like the candy is laying on top of these pearls. And I don't know if you can't see it on my paint stick. No, it's a little bit dark there, but you get the general idea, and it's a really cool thing if you think about it. I'd paint it over base coat black. It really makes the pearls stand out. It's just like if you're using a chameleon or anything else, you want to put it over a black base coat. You don't have to. This is a base coat, so you can, with enough coats, completely cover anything. But black, of course, you would use less coats, which would save you money. And you know, it's a SG100 base paint, I believe. So you know, you don't want to get too thick, because then you got shrinkage. You don't like no one likes shrinkage. Okay, tip number 25. I'm going to show you this masking trick again. Okay, so we're going around. You want to rub so that the fine line shows through. But one of the questions I had in an email once was following this line with a razor blade. Some people go in and out of the line, and they said they were having problems, especially when you're going for a long haul, when you're going for a long flame with a razor blade, which you want to try to avoid, because you should be able to run the tape along those long lines. But sometimes when you're in tight quarters, your tape's going to overlap two lines, and then you'll have to cut one. Okay, best way to do that is, let's see, you want to take your tape, finger on one end of it, pressing just lightly to scratch it, and then pull with the other end. So you've got a guide hand and then a pressing hand. Pressing and guiding at the same time can get stuck, can get a little awkward, and then you can be off track. This way you can get right on top of it, press, follow it around, stay in your line, and then peel off your tape. And then it's a clean edge. It's just a little trick. I don't know if it works for you. It gives you better control of your razor blade. I prefer using razor blades. A lot of you are going to use X-Acto knives and will prefer that method. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. These are always handy. I've used X-Acto knives and have been just fine with those. I can get a straighter, longer cut with this. It's like using a pinstriping brush. It's something I'm used to. So if you're used to using X-Acto knife, stay with that. But otherwise, that was just a little tip to show you how to do that a little bit easier than. Okay, here we just have some red powdered pearl. It's a House of Color, one of their newer pearls. Just powdered pearl with SG 100 reduced down about 150%. And I'm going to start doing, this is the classic ghost flame. You go around the edges. And the tips, you get put a little extra on the tips and fade them back. Go around all the edges. A little extra on the tips, around the edges. A little extra on the tips. It's kind of a standard old. You go around the edges. In the little circles, you can you can fade in toward the center a little bit. You can get three-dimensional and get a little bit crazy, but they're ghost flames, so they don't show up much. So you don't want to kind of keep that pearl shaking up. Tips around the edges.
That's all, folks.